back on Good Morning Artesia as we welcome in our guests for this segment. We're going to talk about the Artesia Classical Academy. And joining us is Amy Scroggin. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning.
And Hannah Hagelstein. Good morning, Hannah.
Good morning.
And Dickey Townley.
Good morning, Gene.
I wanted to say Dickey Reedy, but that would not be... That'd be wrong, wouldn't
I've been called by a lot of names, Gene, so that's...
Where's Dickey Reedy from? Why am I trying to remember that name?
He worked for Halliburton for many years, and he helped here with, I don't remember which closet it was, but here locally.
That's probably where I remember the name. I'm still amazed that you found somebody to marry named Vicky.
Yeah, and you know, Gene, actually, I wanted to name my two sons Mickey and Ricky, but she was much wiser than I was, so we didn't do that.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Well, they could have just called us the Ickies.
Oh, that is fantastic. Well, let's introduce folks to the Artesia Classical Academy. I don't know who wants to start first. I know, Amy, you're going to be the headmaster.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, you know, I can just tell you a little bit about how we got started. We, this was never really a plan for any of us. It just really kind of happened during the COVID season. We those of us who had children in school, we were, forced to bring them home. And personally, me, I was like, I have got to have a community if I'm going to do this homeschool thing, because it's a big task. And I joined Classical Conversations, a homeschool group here in town, and got introduced to the classical method of teaching. And I was like, this is amazing. When my kids go back to public school, I have got to figure out how to implement this into their lives. And then just several months after having this amazing Christ-centered education in my home, my husband and I came to the realization that that's the type of education that we wanted our children to have, and just started talking to other moms around town, and God just amalgamated this group of a board of directors together, a community that has been working to put it together, and it's been a unexpected but quite awesome journey.
Wow. So. I bet it has. Hannah, did you have kind of a similar experience during the COVID shutdowns in your family?
I was voluntold. Just kidding. So I have little ones, and we have toddlers right now, and so we have always, wanted to homeschool. And so when Amy and I finally met and started talking, we both shared this desire to be able to give this type of just a different option of education for parents here in Artesia. And also just really realizing that a lot of the parents were starting to pursue education outside of our our town and of Artesia, and we didn't want to lose these great families, to driving to Roswell every day or Carlsbad or even further than that. And so that kind of started coming up in our conversations, and so that's kind of how I got pulled in. It's just really, we love our community. We love Artesia. This is our home. This is where we've chosen to raise our families. And so we're really excited to be able to bring this option for people here in Artesia. So it's kind of how I got thrown into the mix.
Well, you talk about people that were driving out of town, and a lot of people left town.
Yes.
I mean, there were a lot of people, and one of the reasons, there were a number of reasons, but one of the most common reasons was getting their kids back in school, which Texas seemed to allow that to happen a lot quicker than what we did in New Mexico. Dickey, how did you get involved in this
Very
project?
interesting that a now retired man with children that have already grown would be on the board of directors for this. But Amy and I live next door to each other, and she began to tell me what she was wanting to do for her children, and it tweaked and interested me, especially because in my former life as general manager of a larger company here, we often had issues with people coming to Artesia because there wasn't choices for allowing their kids school options. So I thought, hey, this would be a great opportunity to allow another choice for families moving to Artesia. Now, I want to make sure that people understand we're not opposed to public school at all, and we love our public schools, and we think we have some of the best administrators, some of the best teachers within the state. But unfortunately, our state ties their hands so often in what they can do, and we've seen that over the last year. But we want to support them and help them in any way we can. We still pay our taxes to the school. We do all of those things that a citizen of this community should do. But we just want to give another option out there for families who come to Artesia or want to see a little different type education for their children. And I just thought it was a great opportunity for that choice.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was looking in the Roswell paper this morning at what the graduation rate was in the Roswell schools, and they're concerned. The graduation rate in Artesia was pretty good. Superintendent Null mentioned that in his segment this week. So a lot of people, as long as I've been here, have talked about how wonderful the schools are in Artesia. I'm guessing your kids or you product of the Artesia schools. So I'm glad you talked about why the academy is being formed, not necessarily as a issue that anybody has with the Artesia Public Schools, right?
Absolutely not.
Right.
Okay. So how did this homeschool collaborative turn into let's start a school?
I think being crazy had something to do with it. I don't know. Maybe you could probably say.
I joke about being on the crazy train every once in a while. You know, I think it takes a very special heart to homeschool your children, and I have some great friends who they have that heart, and they're amazing homeschool teachers. I don't have that heart.
Yeah.
I'm a former public educator. I've actually taught in the Artesia public school system, and I would rather teach 150 kids than 2 of my own, really, sometimes. And
That's interesting.
But yeah, I know. And
I think if you asked my dad, he would have said the same thing.
I have much more patience.
But his,
with
I think,
everybody
was
else's.
his was very specific to me. So,
Right.
so I understand.
No, I love my children, but it's just there's a lot of parents who just did not want to homeschool, but they did want a different option. And then again, we saw so many amazing families just leaving in groves, and we really, we love our community, and so it's just giving it one more option for students. And I wish we would have had this going during COVID, and we might have not lost quite so many families.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm not sure which one of you wants to tackle this, but you mentioned the state, the public education department, and we've had school administrators talk about the issues that they've had having to deal with the heavy-handed control that comes from that. Does this long arm of the law, if you will, extend to private schools? Didn't the mask mandate, didn't that extend down to the private schools? What's your understanding of how that would work?
Well, because of a pandemic, the mask mandate did, it was statewide. So there were some things that we have to do according to the state if it's a pandemic and things like that. But as far as the school, as they're handling the school, Gene, they would not have very much control over the school because we're not taking any federal funding. You know, like I said, we pay taxes for our public schools, and we want to continue to support our public schools. But all the funding for the private school is going to come from tuitions and from private donations. And I don't know, a lot of people don't realize how much it costs to educate a student in New Mexico, but it's about $13,000. So the federal government and the state supports that for public schools. Those are the funds that we have to come up individually with for the students here. And it's quite a challenge, but we're doing very good on that. And we want to get the word out that anybody that's interested, they're more than welcome to help us out, especially financially if they so choose.
Sure. And because you've mentioned a number that has to be covered if you're going to do that. So what grades will be a part of the Classical Academy? How are you starting out with certain grades and then building up? Or
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're starting out K through 6 next year, and we would have loved to just open up big K-12, but we want to do it intentionally and sustainably, and not buy such a big bite off the cookie that we choke on it. So, you know, we're K through 6 next year, the 22-23 academic year. During the 23-24 academic year, we'll move up to K through 8. And then our board and our finance committee will sit down and see when it's feasible to move up to 9 through 12, and we eventually will just probably start at 9th grade, and that will be our first graduating class.
All right. So, but starting out with K through 6th grade.
Yes, sir.
And so how many instructors are needed for that? How many teachers? I mean, you're the headmaster, but is this the one-room schoolhouse? or are you going to actually have a number?
Well, it's close, but not quite one room. No, sir. We're going to have 4 teachers hired by next year. We're actually in the hiring process, and if anybody would like to put in their application, we're going to start interviewing on April 25th. And we're excited. We've had some good applicants come in, but we're all about having more submit their applications as well.
So how will the grades then be divided? If it's 4 teachers, but K through 6,
sir.
if my Iowa math, that's like 7 grades, right?
Right,
yeah.
right.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Am I having enough fingers here?
We're not very good at math. No, I'm kidding. We know. So kindergarten is going to be a grade all by itself. Those are the kids that they're coming in at so many different levels, and it's just their first introduction to school, so they're going to have their own kindergarten teacher. And then we'll be going grouping grades 1 and 2, grades 3 and 4, grades 5 and 6, and we're actually in our cooperative doing that this year. I was a little hesitant, wondering how that was going to work, but it's been a beautiful process. We've had some of our older kids be able to teach concepts to our younger kids, which then validates what they're learning and really ties that in. And it's we don't have that, you know, I'm a 5th grader and you're a 3rd grader, so you're not very cool. You know, it's everybody is just kind of a big happy family, and they work in the different age groups, and it's a really fun process to see.
Okay, that's how you make the math work.
Yes, sir.
That's exactly right.
You know, the other thing about of course, we're in the hiring process right now, but you know, that's one thing is we really value teachers in the classrooms. And so this is, you know, we are the going to have no online anything. It's going to be there because we really believe that teachers should be able to understand the students and communicate with them. And so we're not doing any there won't be any online any online section of our schooling, and so we're really excited to be able to offer that for our students.
Okay, that's speaking of curriculum. I know in the public schools, not just in New Mexico, but across the country, there's a lot of talk about the Common Core and progressing at a certain level and all that. What are the requirements for a private school like the Academy? What is the curriculum or the base for the curriculum that will be taught in this?
Right. You know, and for every private school, they get the opportunity to choose that. We've chosen the classical method of teaching. It's not necessarily a box set of books that comes to you. However, it's a process that really values who the student will become as a person, not necessarily what their vocation will be, but who they will be. And it goes back to, I mean, our forefathers were classically educated. C.S. Lewis was classically educated. The Apostle Paul was more than likely classically educated, and sadly, our society has gotten away with that. But really producing children who know how to seek out knowledge. We're not just going to be feeding on things and telling them to memorize it and then regurgitate that. We're going to be teaching on the process of learning and the love for learning, so that they can go out. And then in the older grades, in the 7th and 8th grade, they enter logic, and they will really learn. They're incorrigible at that age anyway and love to argue, so let's teach them how to do it responsibly. So at least I was an incorrigible 7th and 8th grader.
This is not Twitter, kids. You can't just throw it out there and then run away. You actually have to make your arguments.
Right.
Wow.
And logically, you think, you know, if, say they're watching the news or reading a book or an article, look for the fallacies and the arguments that the writer or the reporter is presenting, and really it comes back to basing it all on biblical knowledge. You know, God is the giver and creator of all knowledge, and going back and seeking his word and how everything comes back to that.
So how important is the religious teachings a part of this curriculum? Is this a religious class or school, or how does that? What's the word I'm looking for?
How does
The
that
answer
tie
is
together?
yes.
How does that tie together? Yeah.
The answer is yes. We're we're Christian based. That's our main focus, Gene. We want to make sure that the children receive a strong Christian foundation. It's non-denominational, but it is a Christian foundation, and we believe that was the basis for what our kids need to understand first and foremost. And then one thing that I would like to add about classical education, one of our nationally syndicated news programs recently ran a series on the re-education of America. And during that series, they talked about classical education and the research that they had done on this particular curriculum. And they were so impressed of it, they thought that it was the way that America education would be rescued, is through classical education. So that just gave us a more strength in our belief that this is the right curriculum at the right time for these students.
Sure. Now, do you anticipate, depending on financial situation or whatever, parents having kids that may come in and out of the curriculum, so if they take a few years of the classical academy and then for whatever reason wind up having either moving or having to go back into public school, does the curriculum track, or is it on a similar path? In other words, somebody comes out of second grade in classical academy and they have to go into the public school. Are they going to be ahead, behind? Well, hopefully ahead, I guess, would be the assumption.
The
there,
Do
but-
we have to answer
Go
that on the
Yeah,
radio?
yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. No,
I'm
I'm
just kind of
kidding.
curious because that's
The
probably
research that we've done, Gene, it shows, and all the national research that the classical academy schools have done, is that the students that go through classical academy, when they're reintroduced into public school, they outperform their peers on that. We have not had any studies of our own, naturally, because we don't have the school up and going, but we anticipate that to be the same.
Well, and
Yeah.
we're modeling our school. We're a member of the ACCS, which is the Association of Classical Christian Schools, and they have been amazing about helping us. They're all about planning schools all throughout the United States and even overseas, and they give amazing resources. They're a phone call away, and so we're modeling our school after these schools who have been studied and done field testing through Notre Dame and been compared to all different types of education, whether it's public, evangelical, prep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the purpose of the Parent Information Night coming up on Monday the 25th, is because, like me, everybody's going to have a lot of questions, like extracurricular activities and athletics. Is that going to be a part of the Classical Academy at some point?
We actually, the NMAA, sorry about got my acronym.
NMAA, the New Mexico
NMAA, yeah, there you go.
New Mexico
I need
Activities Association.
I
Yes.
need more coffee. Yes, sir. It's in their bylaws, specifically in Section 6 and 10, it allows charter schools, private schools, home schools to be able to participate in public school activities, up to 3 activities. And we have, Bulldog athletics, extracurricular, that's what bounds our town together. And I have little girls going to ACA, but they're wearing orange and going to basketball games and football games, and they look forward to being Artesia Bulldogs someday, or singing in the choir. So they are allowed to do those events, and that's just something that we're going to work with public schools to be able to accomplish.
So the Academy students would participate in, hopefully, in Artesia activities.
Yes, sir.
So we won't see another team in town, and at least this point. Where is the Artesia Classical Academy? Are you in an existing facility? Are there plans to build a school facility? Kind of give us the vision there.
Right now, the Hermosa Church of Christ has been so gracious, and they've opened their doors to us, and they have a very nice facility with a lot of great security features and things like that for kids. So they're housing us there. So we have this shared space going on with them, and it's been amazing. And I think our number is about 50. We believe that until we need to be finding our place, and that's one thing our board has been discussing. We're not going to wake up one day and be like, oh no, what do we do?
Yeah, that was a great question, Gene, because that was one of the first concerns that I had, is the housing of the school.
Yeah.
And as Amy said, the church was gracious enough to allow us space there until we outgrow grow it. We're already in the process of looking, once we reach that magic number, and right now we place that number at 50 students, that we will have to have a building of our own. So we're already, with anticipation of that, we're already gathering funds, and we're looking to the future of purchasing a building of our own and being there in a different location at some point.
At some point in the future. And as anybody knows, with the supply chain shortages, the way the economy is, whatever you think it's going to cost today, it's going to be a lot more down the road, unfortunately. So that's one of the challenges that you will have in doing that. Is there anything else that you want to mention in this interview segment? Because we want to encourage people, if they have questions, how much is it going to cost? Is there, are there scholarships? Is there assistance? All of these great questions that people might have. They obviously can come and meet with you on Monday on that. But is there anything else you wanted to share this morning?
Well, we have a website, and I'm going to steal Amy's paper real quick.
Okay.
Our website is
ArtesiaClassicalAcademy.org.
You would think I didn't have a hand in helping prepare that. And so we answer a lot of questions. That's where you can find all of our information. The application for school for prospective students, that's where you can find information about what our requirements are for teachers, and also the application to apply for that. And then we have a Facebook page also, and we're trying to answer questions, because people do. I mean, there are so many different questions that come to mind when we started preparing this, and so we want to make sure that we are very transparent in being able to communicate what we are doing. And so our Facebook page is also a great resource, as well as these information nights. I mean, they're really great about just answering all of the questions without even having to ask them. And so I really do encourage people to come and ask those questions, because we're excited to be able to answer those for them.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the next one is not this Monday, but it's a week from Monday, the 25th. And it will be at, will it be at the...
It'll be at Hermosa Church of Christ, which is 2512 West
That way
Avenue.
the parents or whoever might be concerned can see the building and see where we're set up, how we're set up. It'll be an opportunity for them to get a little more information on the physical location itself.
Right. And the plan is to begin instruction with students this fall.
Yes, sir, in August.
In August.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's
Sure.
well, how exciting for you to get all of this rolling. And if folks have questions, I'm sure they can reach out to you, or come to the parent information night on Monday, April 25th.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, thanks for having us. And if you have any questions, give us, the phone number is on the website, email address is on the website. And I'm also willing to meet with, if you can't come to the meeting on the 25th, but you're very interested and want to sit down, then I can definitely plan individual meetings as well.
Okay.
Families, so.
Well, you're looking for teachers.
Yes, sir.
You're
Yes,
going to be
sir.
looking for students here very
Yes,
soon
sir.
as well. So, Amy, thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you, Dean, for having
Headmaster,
us.
is that the...
That's the title.
Hannah Hagelstein, thank you, Hannah. And Dickey, thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Appreciate it.
So what's more exciting right now, this or City Council?
They're both taking up more time than what I might have thought, but I'm loving it. I wondered, everybody told me you need to have something to do in retirement, so I fit that. All right, I fit that in there.
At least two things now.
Two things now.
Yeah, well, it's good. On the City Council, did you get appointed any committees yet?
Yes, I got appointed to 3 committees: Infrastructure Committee, the Fire and Police Committee, and the Recreation Committee. So I'm going to have my hands full there.
Okay. Well, we need to figure out a way to put the people at the Recreation Department, the kids or whatever, put them to work on the infrastructure.
There you go.
Create that bond.
That's right. Yeah, so that's great. Well, thanks for coming in, and I'm sure we'll have you back again real soon.
Great. Thank you, Gene.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks a lot. Well, let's take a break, see what's happening in the newsroom. That's next.
Now for a Pecos Valley News Update. I'm